Hello YouTubers. Well, as you can see, there's a lot of snow all over the country at the moment, and I've been marooned here in my little bungalow for about 10 days now, and it looks like I'm going to be stuck here for a long while yet, or until the cavalry arrive. So the telephone lines are still working, and the internet's still working, so what better way to spend the time than making a video for you. And I've chosen to put up another sort of one of tales from the past. Yeah, okay, it's very long. The whole thing's probably going to be about 12 minutes, but I hope you'll be interested. And it talks about sex, so there's a teaser for you. So I'll put the video up, and I'll see you again very shortly if the telephone lines stay intact. But until I do, as always, goodbye. Till then, goodbye. Hello YouTubers. Well, not only not doing it right, not doing it at all, because we were 12 years old, and more importantly, we didn't know what the hell it was all about. We'd been told that we'd been found under gooseberry bushes or some such rubbish, and whilst that might have been acceptable as a 4-year-old, we knew that wasn't right, but of course we didn't know what was right. So where did we get our information from? Well, we didn't really. There were no books or magazines or films or anything to tell us, and if our parents weren't going to tell us, which well, in my case they didn't, and that wasn't exceptional. I believe in all cases they didn't. Then we got it from older boys who had got it from older boys, etc. And some truths came down, and a lot of mistruths, of course, which was quite sad. I mean, I remember seeing dogs doing it in the street, and I thought, oh my God, that looks like a lot of hard work, and they don't seem to be enjoying it very much. And then they got locked together and couldn't get apart, and I thought, yeah, I don't think I want to do that anyway. But the mystery had to be solved, as it does with all young people. At school we did have biology lessons, and you would have thought that was where we might have been taught it, but we didn't do any sort of human biology at all. Most of the time we seemed to talk about plants and trees and insects and chrysalises and pupae and all that sort of thing. But we did get on to fish one day, and that looked a bit more interesting, because there was a picture of some frogs spawn, and that was explained that they were female eggs, and they would be fertilized by the male. And then we saw some sort of milky stuff, and they thought, all right, here we go, this is good, because older boys had they had told us about that, so we thought, yeah, this is it. And then they developed into tadpoles, and then they metamorphosed into frogs, and well, that all seemed a bit peculiar, but at least we were on the right track, I thought. And then the teacher said, that in talking about fish, and I think tropical fish, he said there are hermaphrodites. And then he had to explain that big word to say that they were fish that were both male and female. And then he went on to talk about males that could produce offspring. And oh God, I thought, oh, I think I'll give up. This is no good at all. Anyway, enter Althea. Well, who's Althea? Well, Althea was quite a kind girl, and you have to know that air raid shelters weren't only there to protect us from bombs. In a way, really, they should have been there to protect us from Althea, but Althea devised games which she called Doctors and Nurses. Now, whether in all the examinations that took place she needed to know about the male anatomy, or I don't know, maybe she was just a kind girl who wanted us to know about the female anatomy. Anyway, I will gloss over it embarrassingly by telling you that at last we had seen the female body parts, and I suppose a lot of the mystery was solved, and we could go off and do our things like collecting shrapnel and bits of bombs and bullets and bits of stuff from crashed aeroplanes and things, and far more exciting things. But of course the big question was, okay, so we knew where this baby was going to grow, but how the hell was it going to get out? And there were all sorts of stories, like holes being cut and bellies exploding and all sorts of horrible, gruesome things, and couldn't really see how that could be so. And I suppose it was the last mystery of the jigsaw. I suppose children who'd grown up on farms and had seen birth and death from the time of their childhood just understood all of these things, and they absorbed them, and it was perfectly natural, and they didn't even have to ask their parents about it. But we were more or less townies, so we didn't know these things. As I said before, the nearest I'd seen to anything was dogs performing. But anyway, that problem was solved by Jimmy, and Jimmy was one of my father's butcher's delivery boys. Now, I don't remember whether he just worked on a Saturday or whether he was there all the time, but he was old. He must have been at least 16, but as far as we were concerned, he was old, and he was somebody I could ask because he wasn't connected with our gang or group or anything, so I didn't need to look silly in front of them. And but unfortunately, I asked him at the very wrong time, because I don't know why I was with him, but we were cycling up the street, and he'd got his delivery of parcels of meat in the carrier at the front, and I was sitting on the crossbar when I asked him the question, and of course he told me the answer, and of course this was so amazing to me that I shouted out the word. Well, you know what the word was, and I'm not going to repeat it, but it's quite amusing really, because I remember at school somebody had written this word on the toilet walls, and whilst the headmaster was a very nice and liberal sort of man, very kind to us all, at one assembly he was very serious, and he was going to clamp down on any of this sort of graffiti right from the start. And he said, somebody has written "see you next Tuesday" on the toilet wall, and then proceeded to tell us what dire punishments would come upon us if anybody was found to do such a terrible thing. So I shouted out this word in amazement, but unfortunately, as I did so, there was a group of ladies who were close neighbours of ours who heard it, obviously, because they sort of I don't know what they did, jump back in amazement or something. So this was a terrible crime, because swearing in those days was absolutely something that you was never allowed to do, and even a policeman could reprimand you for it and drag you down to report you to your parents. So I was terribly frightened about this, but nothing happened actually. If they did tell her, she didn't do anything, and that didn't matter. So there you are. The whole mystery was solved, and That's all I can think to tell you, really. But it's 9:46, so it looks like I'm gonna. No, it's only 8:49, because let's close this down in a little more sensible way, and let me say how dreadful I think that situation was, and how much better it is today that there's more availability for young people to get whatever knowledge they want, and also that of course it has been brought into the sex education, has been brought into the curriculum of all schools, and a very good thing. But being 9:26, I will have to close. I'll see you again very soon, and until then, goodbye.